Hi, everybody. I'm Traven Rice, and this is the Lowdown Culture Cast. And we're recording at P&T Knitwear in the podcast studio on Orchard Street. And I'm talking with all kinds of culture changers. And I'm excited today to speak with Dora Grossman-Weir. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Dora is born and raised in Brooklyn and is a hospitality professional with a focus on wine. After spending 2.5 years working on the then startup Parcelle, it was an online retailer back then. She left to work with the wine team at Momofuku Ko and then returned to the Parcelle group to open Tolo and later Sunn and Mitsuru as their general manager and wine director. Growing up with a family that loved food, she's always been enamored with great restaurants, exploring different cultures by way of their cuisines and the intersection of wine and history. And she's learning every day about food, wine, and culture in the city. So how did you get involved in the beginning with Parcelle?
I had been working since I graduated college at Big Gay Ice Cream, which was a very iconic kind of New York City brand for me growing up here. I remember when it was just an ice cream truck before it became a shop, and Anthony Bourdain them doing a lot of Pride activations. And so I was supporting the new owner as his assistant, but also doing a lot of branding, copywriting, copy editing, marketing. And I kind of got into the food media world through that. When I wanted to leave that job, Parcelle was hiring for someone, and the role they were looking for was someone with all of the same experiences I had, just related to wine instead of food. And I was very honest with them and was like, look, I'm happy to help you copy edit all of your wine descriptions and put together these emails and what have you, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. I know very little about wine. I only know that I enjoy it. And they actually were very happy to have someone on the team who didn't have a wine background, but did have a strong background in communication and in writing, because I could be the set of eyes that was similar to the consumer, where if they wrote something and it was really like heady and wordy and it didn't really translate to how you would speak to someone who doesn't know about wine, I was the first kind of filter that would go through of like, I don't know what this means. This isn't resonating with me, what have you. But then through that, I was spending all day reading these wonderful wine descriptions. And Sunn and I'm someone who loves to read and I love to learn, and I just got completely obsessed, and then actually did end up delving into learning about wine, reading more about wine, studying, etc.
You were like the people's voice.
Exactly. At the time I was really young when I first started working there, and I was young. I was living with 4 roommates, and Parcelle sells affordable wine and also incredibly collectible wine. And I was the first person to be like, what? This bottle costs how much? Was definitely bringing a young, relatively young, lower disposable income perspective to the Parcelle world at the time.
I think that's really important, honestly. I mean, I think that it can be really intimidating,
100%.
No matter who you are, where you're going, especially at a restaurant in New York City, regardless. I think I never know how to describe exactly what I want. I mean, I haven't studied wine, and so I think it's a really great thing to sort of specifically try to make it accessible and to have it be something that's not so intimidating.
100%. And I think that was also really the thought behind Tolo when Tolo first opened. So Ron, who's the chef and part owner of Tolo, was the original chef at Parcelle's wine bar.
Okay, so we should talk about this the timeline
Yes.
of the history of it. So Parcelle was an online wine shop.
Yeah, with a small brick and mortar, but not one that got a lot of foot traffic. And when I started working with Parcelle, it was early 2021. It was only a team at the time of about 6 or 7 people. And it was also in the still pretty deeply in COVID. And so even just the idea of like going to an in-person wine store, it was still a time in which that felt intimidating and risky and having to wear a mask no matter what you were doing. And so they really were able to find a lot of success the minute they started doing delivery. And that really changed the business there. They deliver nationwide, they deliver in New York. And that's a lot of why I was brought on, is to help capture that nice communication that you have when you're talking to someone in person in a store, where you feel like you can ask questions and they're talking to you in like more human conversational ways about what you're going to drink, and trying to translate that to the online platform. Mm-hmm. When the following year in 2022, the world was reopening a little bit, I think come springtime, Grant, the owner of Parcelle, really was like, people want to be back in restaurants. People want to be back outside in the world. And what may be a really cool brick and mortar concept for our retailer is to actually do a wine bar where you could taste 2 or 3 glasses of wine, or drink a bottle with your friends. And if you love it, get that delivered to you later that week.
Yeah. And so this opened up, I should say, right at the kind of intersection of the hippest place in the universe at the moment.
Yes.
On Division Street. I mean, according to some people.
According to some, yes. But we kind of didn't know when we first saw the space what that whole world would turn into a little bit. There was already Servos there. Of course, there's Kiki's, Forget Me Not, these places that have been around for a long time and really anchor that particular block. But yeah, it got pretty crazy that first summer. It's with the street closed down and everyone's spilling out into the street every night. It's a pretty fun, exciting energy, I have to say.
And it really is sort of this intersection between Chinatown and the Lower East Side, and you have a lot of different intersecting cultures and backgrounds there.
Yeah, exactly. And so Ron, who is Chinese, he every day when he would get off the F train at East Broadway and would be walking to the wine bar, which is just a block or so up, he was passing by the old space for Ming's Cafe, which had closed down just a couple months after Parcelle opened. And it was like an all-day Hong Kong-style cafe, super affordable, super beloved in the neighborhood. And I think Ron was passing it every day and was like, it would be really great if there was another Chinese restaurant that went in here. And him and Grant started talking about it, and they were like, what if we put in, you're the chef, you're the owner, open a Chinese restaurant where the Parcelle team is able to support on creating a really strong wine and beverage program too, but in this relaxed environment that feels like really in conversation with the neighborhood. And Grant approached me about coming on to help open it or coming back to the team. I had left for about 6 months by then. And it just felt like such a thoughtful, exciting, appropriate opening. And I just was really excited by the concept. And we were able to build this really great team there, who has, for the most part, been around all since the very beginning, which is also kind of amazing. We haven't had a lot of turnover, and we've been really lucky to have people who are committed to the restaurant and kind of in it for the long haul. And yeah, we're coming up on 2 years this fall of Tolo being open, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's very delicious, by the way. I have been there. And
Excellent.
It's really, really good. So Ron was just helping with basic food at Parcelle? I mean, just like wine
it's wine bar food. And him and Grant had worked together at another restaurant in the past, and so he knew Ron. He liked working with him, and Ron was making like a little spring salad, a tartare style dish, some different toasts, like a couple sandwiches, just very snacky wine bar food. But even though his like background and training is in French culinary school, the food that he's like really passionate about and feels really connected to, he wasn't cooking any of that there. It was just this very kind of typical basic wine bar fare, of course, with his flair on it because he's a great cook and has great taste. But working with him and getting to see the inspiration that he takes from his upbringing in Hong Kong, his favorite like Cantonese and Szechuan dishes, and some like Shanghainese dishes, because his background, while he grew up in Hong Kong, his mom is from like mainland China, but then he grew up in Toronto, so he's pulling from a lot of different influences and flavor profiles under the umbrella of Chinese cuisine.
I did see that it got a Michelin star.
Well, it didn't get a Michelin star. It got a Michelin Bib Gourmand. So not a star, but it's the acknowledgement from the Michelin Guide of a place that provides exceptional value.
Okay.
And which I also think we are really proud of is being a place where you can have a really value-driven, as much as we can, affordable meal. Or you can really ball out and drink something really special and have a really special dinner. And so I think being able to kind of do both of those things, be a place for some quick noodles and a beer, or being a place to have a coursed out, lovely, ingredient-driven, exceptional, high-quality meal with some really special wine and elevated service. Being able to wear both of those hats at the same time and do that is really important to us as in terms of the whole concept of the restaurant.
And so what kind of things did you learn about wine when you were at Momofuku Ko?
So when I was at Ko, I was working really closely with Nikita Malhotra. She was their wine director there. She's now the owner and beverage director at Smithereens, which is also in the neighborhood. And, I had my entire background in wine. I had been learning from Grant and also from Christine Collado, who are the two leaders at Parcelle. And they are exceptionally smart, thoughtful, knowledgeable, brilliant wine people. But they have a style and they have a taste, and Parcelle has a style and a taste. And so that was my only funnel through which I was learning. So I wanted to leave that for a moment and start to understand someone else's style and perspective and the producers they're excited about. And I really wanted to learn from Nikita. She's someone who exists on kind of in both of the kind of general camps in the wine world, like the classic blue chip producer is really old school, and she's someone who's really open and excited about younger producers, lesser known regions, natural winemakers, and also beverage in general outside of wine. She's really interested in cocktails and spirits and like bourbon, whiskey, anything. So she had this very academic approach to like bringing me, or I guess into how she was mentoring me. I was reading and writing about the wines on her list every day and just supporting her in the education that she was putting together for her team. And I always say it felt like I went to school. Like I felt like a semester abroad. I was like, I'm going to study at Ko for a bit. And then I came back and opened Tolo and had this new perspective and had tried all these other new things. It was just super, super valuable.
And so how does it affect sort of what you decide you want to emphasize or focus on when it comes to wine with Chinese food?
Something that Grant and Ron and I have all kind of agreed upon is that it's very important that we have this kind of classic wine list featuring Burgundy, Champagne, a list that would make sense and fit in well at any French restaurant that has very like classic French bistro style, but just showing the versatility of those wines and how casually you can drink those with Chinese food, especially because we're not a Szechuan restaurant. There's not tons of spice on our menu. It's more just these really kind of savory, umami, like warming flavors rather than particular chili spice. And actually, a lot of the wines on the list you could drink with almost anything. People get so taken aback by the idea that Chinese food can be flexible and also that wine can be flexible. And I'll get asked about like pairing certain dishes with certain wines. And my answer is always kind of like, it wouldn't be on this list if it wasn't going to be delicious with everything on the menu. And I want you to look at this list. We want you to look at this list and have it seem pretty classic, or at least have a lot of really like old school classic categories, old world wines, for lack of a better term, and just say like, yes, I promise you, you can drink that with this food. You don't have to think too hard about it. It's delicious. It's ready to go. And so I think that approach of not trying to almost be too precious about the pairings and using the experience of just drinking the wine and eating the food as kind of a test case, or just to show people like, look, it's not that crazy of a pairing. The flavors are right there. This is not this like exotic thing that you have to like dance around. You can just drink the wine. It's great. It has acid. It's fresh. It's versatile, and the food is delicious and it's easy. You know?
Yeah. And then so Tolo was off and running, and then shortly after that, so there's Parcelle, there's Tolo, and then Sunn's opened.
It went Mitsuru first and then Sunn's. So the order was Parcelle as a wine bar opened, Tolo opened, and then the following summer is actually when Parcelle's Greenwich Village location opened. And the 2 Parcelle wine bars are kind of their own thing, and then the 3 restaurants are their own thing a little bit, but we're all in the same broader family. But then, so fall of 2024 now, or I guess I'll go back to spring of 2024. So Mitsuru Tamura is an omakase chef. He ran the kitchen for a long time at Sushi Asuda and got them their Michelin star. And he left in the beginning of the pandemic and took some time off and traveled and was with his family.
I noticed he was downstairs for briefly at Parcelle.
Yes, exactly. So him and Grant were connected through some mutual, like a wine client and who was also a sushi person. And Mitsu started doing this little residency downstairs at Parcelle. And it was this just one table. He had his whole omakase set up there. And he is just amazing. He can do anything. And it was such an easy kind of pairing between our wine list and getting some sake in there. And he was working, he's such a like talented, versatile chef. Like he can set up on a table and deliver a whole omakase experience. He doesn't need a counter. He doesn't need like some insane setup or prep cooks. Like he's just got it. So it was this really seamless partnership. And then when a space was opening up in the West Village, and we already had this structure that we knew worked at Tolo of a chef partner, Parcelle supporting the wine and service program. That when Mitsuru opened, we had the playbook, and that's just been amazing. It's become such a neighborhood spot over there. It's right on the West 4th Street, 6th Avenue corner. And, Mitsuru is running his counter, but in similar vein to Tolo and just the ethos of all of the spots in general, there's an a la carte dining room right alongside this omakase counter. So you can drink this rare allocated sake or champagne alongside your 15-course omakase meal on the counter, or you can walk in and sit in our dining room and order a couple hand rolls and a couple cooked dishes and a glass of wine or sake a person and have a very low-key dinner. And having those things exist in the same space and having the service team, having a team there that's able to really execute both of those experiences, something that's really elevated and something that's really warm and comfortable, and create regulars, be a place where if you're a neighbor, we know your name. It's been really exciting to watch that take off as well.
So then how did Sunn's happen?
Sunn's happened because Sunny has been a roving pop-up, or has been at the helm of a roaming pop-up called Banchan by Sunny for the last, I think, 3 years at least, 3 to 5 years. I don't even know how long she was doing it for. But she had an unbelievable following. So her background is in like all the fine dining New York City spots that you could imagine. She was at EMP, she was at Blue Hill, she was at Estella, she ran the kitchen at ZZ's Clam Bar, and then took some time out of restaurants for a while because she knew that she wanted to be cooking Korean food. She spent some time at INSA actually before taking some time off, and really got excited about banchan, which are Korean side dishes / condiments that are meant to be this wide slew of flavors and textures that just will always change and complement any bite that you're having over the course of a whole meal. And she had, when she was at Achilles Heel, and even before that, when she was doing her pop-up at Night Moves during the day on Sundays, Grant started going to some of her pop-ups and was just like, this food is amazing. And there was this space that had once held Parcelle's beer shop, which was then closed, and then it was kind of a private dining room, but it was a space that wasn't really being activated. And Grant kind of pulled me for lunch one day and was like, this really cool chef, Sunny Lee, might do a pop-up in this old space. Would you want to be involved at all? And I know it's not really like under your umbrella or under your purview, but I thought you might think it was cool. And I was like, oh, sure, whatever, I'll do this pop-up. And then like 2 hours into working with Sunny, I was just like, oh my God, you're amazing. Your food is amazing. We were just our ethos and our vibes were really locked in right off the bat. And I kind of was like, well, I don't want anyone else working with her now. I want to be the one who works with her. And so then when that was probably this past August, when December came around and it was time to open Sunn's, I was like, yeah, it's not like I need anything more on my plate, but I better be the one to be involved here. And it's just been great. It's a tiny room. It's really scrappy. Everyone's working really hard, but it's really exciting.
What would you want somebody to know who feels like, oh, I don't know how to order fancy wine? What would you want them to know before you go about coming into the restaurants?
Of course. I always want to be as transparent with my guests as possible and hope that they feel like they can be transparent with me about what they want, how much they want to spend, what they don't like. That's just as helpful as what they do like. And whatever words that you have, are going to be totally helpful. You can't say anything wrong. I could be like, great, give me 2 minutes. I will be back with something for you, rather than people feeling like they have to either be like subtle or communicate in this like layered, guarded way about how much they want to spend or what they want to drink. No, just like lay it out there. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. We'll figure it out together. Wine should be fun. Wine should be convivial. And it should always be in conversation with the food that you're eating and enjoying. And that's part of why I fell in love with wine, is because it's not like any other like alcoholic beverage. It is so intrinsically tied into the experience of eating food and cooking, and historically so as well. So it's a part of your dinner that should be fun. It should be relaxing.
Well, thank you for sharing all of your advice and tips, and I'm looking forward to eating many more meals.
Yes, of course.
There.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, come visit all the spots. We love our neighbors. We want to know that you live in the neighborhood. Okay. Don't hesitate to share with whoever's taking care of you that you live around the block.
Okay, excellent.